Report cards are coming out around the country, and parents may be surprised by what they see. Online learning platform Varsity Tutors has identified the beginnings of a COVID-19 induced academic slide in subjects like math, science, and English language arts. And joining us to discuss this is Chief Academic Officer at Varsity Tutors, Brian Galvin. Brian, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity.
So how exactly would you explain to someone what a COVID-19 academic slide is?
Yeah, good question. We know that in a typical summer is 8 to 10 weeks. And, statistics have shown, throughout the years, students lose about 20% of their reading gains from the previous year and 30% of their math gains from the previous year in a typical summer. Well, this summer in a lot of school districts, the summer was longer. Schools either stopped a little bit early because of COVID or started later, trying to figure out what their protocols would be. It was a shakier spring preceding that summer. I think we'll all admit that. And then there are all the challenges with, adjusting to remote learning and, both for teachers and for students. And so, those three factors have all kind of combined to give us the COVID slide, which is a much more pronounced summer slide. And I think a lot of families, like you said at the outset, are seeing that in the parent-teacher conferences and report cards that they're getting this month.
Well, and we're a couple months into the school year now. What should families be doing to help young learners make the most of this?
Yeah, good question. I think number one is acknowledge that the COVID slide is real and that, it requires some attention. I think just sort of knowing is half the battle. We've heard, from a ton of families who are reaching out. And so that's kind of encouraging, knowing that everyone wants to nip this in the bud. Step two is really to diagnose. The COVID slide isn't uniform. For every student is 50% behind where they should be on every skill. For every student, there are a couple of skills that just for whatever reason didn't click in January and February and then didn't get the repetition, as the spring was a little bit shaky and then they've lost over the summer. You want to know exactly where your learner, one, has deficiencies and two, has deficiencies that we're going to build on this year so that doesn't snowball into, they're building on a shaky foundation and then they have that much more trouble. And then step three is to supplement. Schools are doing the absolute best they can. And, we're really impressed with the ingenuity of teachers, but this is a way more pronounced COVID slide than any summer slide we've seen. And we're just going to need to put in a little bit more time. And whether that's parents, diagnosing and putting in a little extra time after school or on weekends, whether it's thinking about something like tutoring or small group classes, kind of narrowly tailored to what your student needs to work on, finding some supplemental opportunities. You don't want your school spending all year on review, kind of boring students on the things that they already got or, not letting kids get ahead. We'll just need to supplement a little to catch everyone up.
Well, and that's where Varsity Tutors comes in, right? How can this resource help families overcome the slide?
Yeah, great question. So number one, that learning lab tool where you can diagnose, where students are falling a little bit behind grade level and need that help, that's completely free. So you can take an adaptive diagnostic. It will give you a custom study plan. So if you as the parent want to work through that with your student, that tool is completely free. We've had over 60,000 students take those assessments since July. We're also using that data to put together small group classes specifically on the skills that are most, commonly missed by students and that are so important this year. So things like for upper elementary school, it's divisibility and fractions. For, into middle school, there are, some specific algebra skills like factoring that students are struggling with. We'll have specific classes on that. So students kind of get that deep dive on exactly what they need. And you may also want to consider one-on-one tutoring. We're asking a whole lot of parents this year to be parent, to be disciplinarian. When students are learning from home, there's no principal's office to send them to, and then to be a tutor. And I think we're all finding that sometimes time is scarce, expertise might be scarce, and certainly patience is starting to wear thin. And so if you want to outsource a lot of that to a one-on-one tutor, we've got that available as well. And so you can find information on all of that and more at varsitytutors.com.
Brian Galvin, thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Of course. And stay where you are. The Blend will be right back.